For instance, the experience shares, not advice. I'm handling I'm facilitating for 2 years now, a men's circle once a week in my town here. 12 people come. And one of the things that I took as a rule is no advice. And now, 2 years later, you see that people talk about the change of the quality of the listening outside of the circle to their families, to people that they meet. A person talked about some trips he did with a group that he never was able to become part of the group, and because of the work that what happened in our work, he's now his communication changed. He can now more be in a listening mode and inhaling what's happening. And so I must tell you that I slept very good at that night. Like with a good feeling.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Europreneur, the Entrepreneurs Organization podcast. I'm your host, Neil Zaval, and it's always a pleasure to talk and meet some of the most interesting, profound conversations I've had with amazing people, all of them members from this lovely, wonderful organization. And every time we try and find people from different chapters in Europe, and we have like 24 chapters, and sometimes last minute things changed, and Shmulik and I, which I've known, 5, 6, 7 years now, I think.
Something like that.
And
We've been in the same course.
yeah, we
coming
did
into Europe.
the same forum course when we joined. That's right.
Yes.
And I said, "Hey, how's it going?" And he said, "When are we doing a podcast?" And we just had someone cancel, so I'm so happy. And this is how we start. So, my friend, I don't know if you remember or not, but I ask every guest, even though you and I have known each other for years, to give a short elevator pitch for our guests. Can we start?
Yes. So I'm Shmulik Aran. I'm married with 5 kids from 13 to 28. And that's it. I promise. And I'll try. And I'm also working with coaching and mentoring CEOs and management teams, and working with some rounds of CEOs, something like the forum that I'm handling myself. I sold my company about 4 years ago to Honeywell after a roller coaster that would not, be ashamed to be presented at Walt Disney, I think. Like a Disneyland or something like that, but it was sometimes fun and sometimes not.
Question: is it hard to manage a company in times of crisis when you have 5 kids at home?
Yes, actually, to be frank, the company went into very close to bankruptcy when I was turning from 4 kids to 5 kids. So at the same year, I was working with my wife near the delivery room. They send us out to go to do some round, and in between the waves of the pen, yeah, we talk about are we going to close the company next night or not? And I'm thinking to myself, this is my second marriage. Should I talk with my wife during contractions, between contractions on work? And I said to her, no, no, no. She said, this is good. It's moving to me. So, and the same year, we almost closed the company. I had my 5th kid, and I gained 15 kilos. So I think there is some effect.
Wow.
This year was very tough for me.
Wait, a lot of
Extremely.
young entrepreneurs are going to listen to this. So just to conclude this, do you think bringing work home when it's hard is a good thing or a bad thing in a relationship?
Well, I can talk about my experience with my wife. And first of all, she's very smart. And whatever I bring at home, whatever I bring and discuss with her, first of all, there's always something smart that I hear what she's saying and I can use it at work. So for me, it worked amazingly. And though we don't work together, she's a psychologist, and I offered her to lecture together. She doesn't want to.
Interesting.
Maybe she's right.
So first of all, sounds like you were lucky both in finding a companion as a life partner and also someone to talk about the business. But how did you start? What is your journey? What did you do in the army, the Israeli army?
Yeah, yeah. I've been in the Israeli army. Actually, I was in Talpiot. Is like a very highly regarded course in the army. And I studied electronics, first degree in mathematics and physics, second degree electronics, and did some project at the 8200 unit. Now we can say the name. I trained 15 years to say the name because it was not allowed. But it was something with regards to speech recognition, and it won the highly reserved the security prize of the Israeli army. And then somehow a friend got me to clowning, which is like soldier in attitude clowning, and but it really actually was very very interesting to me because I was very shy and I was very closed person with regards to expressing my feelings. I was what we call in Hebrew a good kid Jerusalem, but I was from Tel Aviv, but still like very nice person, very very shy, very very quiet. You can hear the wind when you're talking to me, and I wanted to express more. So I went and I learned how to spit fire and how to walk on stills and how to fail in clowning, which is maybe very relevant also to entrepreneurship. And I felt several times, after 3 years, people started to laugh. So, they didn't laugh for 3 years,
Why did you keep going?
You know what? I kept going because there was this one person, my teacher, who died just 2 years ago. And he believed that everyone can be a clown. So he believed in me. He said, you can do it. And 100 times I could go away. And his belief was very much important to me, very relevant to me. And after 3 years, people started to laugh. It's like the 100 no's that you get from VCs before you raise money, you know, and something that believe either in internal or external that helps you go along. But after that, I actually failed also big time on stage. I spit fire and it went on my face. I didn't notice. I spit fire again and I was on fire
You
on
burned?
stage. Yes, my face. Yeah, yeah. Actually, I looked at the crowd and they looked at me in a very special look. And I said to myself, wow, I'm good today, on stage. After a few seconds, I realized that this is not the case.
Did you go back after that to doing fire on stage?
Yeah, I went back to the backstage. There was some, cloth. I put out the fire, and I went back to do the third one. And after the show, I went to the hospital, um, and I avoided going to my parents for a month because my face was looking like like a wall where the color goes off.
Yeah, the paint peels off.
Yes, exactly.
Well, at least the show must go
And
on.
then
It's your
after
thing.
after
No?
the army,
The
sorry,
show must go on.
the show must go on. The show must go on. There's a sentence that a friend of mine who is religious used to say is like, uh, getting up is doing the work of life. I don't know how. It's like you like it. You're in good mood. You're in a bad mood. You wake up and you do the work of living.
Yeah. It's interesting to,
So
but in those days, did you still you studied or you worked still in your profession or you quit and
I
went
was
into
still in the army. I was still in the army. I actually managed to get the like my farewell party inside the camp, a military camp. There was a clowning show inside of it. So I was learning that. After that, I went to Converse, which was like a rising star in the Israeli high tech, one of the first companies to succeed. It wasn't succeeded at the time. I grew from we grew from 80 people when I was like employee number 80 to 5,000, and that was like a school. I could never ask for something better than that. I did things that I was good at. I think things that I was bad at. I would like, we need somebody to manage a project in India. Did you manage a project yet? No. So, you can do it. But what is the method? We'll send you the book in the email. Seriously.
But that was the beginning of tech in Israel. No one knew anything before that.
Yeah, yeah. And but and it suddenly exploded. And also I learned a lot in that lesson, a lot of lessons there. One of the lessons was that there is a wave. The wave was the cellular networks, and Converse was a voice, mail, and additional services on top of the cellular, and they were there at the right moment with the right flexibility. With the right flexibility. Just because we lost in the US, we had to make our system flexible to work in many languages and in many signaling systems in many countries. And then suddenly cellular happened. We were there and we were better than the bigger one in the US that didn't have this flexibility. So, and many, many lessons I learned there. I moved from product management. I lived 3 years in the States learning, to work with American people. That was, different culture. Think about, you can understand it, maybe not everybody, think about a room with New Jersey employees of a company that we acquired and several Israelis starting sitting around the table. After 3 minutes, all the Israelis are near the blackboard or whiteboard, whatever, and no, you should do it like this, like that. And the New Jersey guys are sitting there looking at us. What kind of creatures, came to work with us? Oh my God! So this thing of working multicultural, working for me started there. Looking at that, and I like making contact with people, and this was really a big like lessons for me of how to bridge between the Israeli culture and the U.S. culture, and then Europe, Far East, wherever
You're talking about
I went later.
you're talking about Converse, and it's funny. My impact from that company is when I finished the army. There was a chain of restaurant that was doing Asian food, and they were doing delivery. Early 2000s. There's no delivery, almost no delivery in Israel with food. I remember it was so big that you would order food and you would get it after 90 minutes, and that was like a good thing. And every day for lunch, we had one of us had to go with our scooters and drop off food for them, but they would order, I don't know, 20, 30 different dishes. And they told us this is for management at the beginning. Afterwards, it was for all employees. And we would go in, and there were delivery guys from all, like, I don't know, 15 restaurants in the area that did delivery. All of us would meet there, and they said, this is high tech. They get food, they buy food for them. And I said, I like this high tech thing. There's free food. I like. So
By the way, high tech. We were just above the gas station.
I remember.
You know, I don't know. I don't know maybe the special smell of the gas station actually was made us creative. I don't know what, but near. If we're talking about culture, what do you have any like strange event with culture that you've came across?
To be honest, I think, especially when we're talking about EO, so we meet and work with, as a volunteer in the organization, I work with a lot of members from other chapters, other regions around the world. And I think we are the odd ones. everybody has kind of the same European mentality, culture, a way of doing things, and then we have this Middle Eastern mentality, and we go and we say, "No, no, do this. Trust me, I know." And we're very vocal in a sense, but I also think that, interestingly enough, when we agree to understand the cultural differences, we take small things from others. And I've noticed that I have I'm lucky enough to be able to take small things from other people that I've met along the way. And I remember when sometimes we go to meetings and they would say, "Ah, I learned that from you." And they're a bit more pushing and a more, I don't know, loud. But I think
In that respect, by the way, when I sold the company to Honeywell, the integration team was led by a team from Netherlands. In Netherlands are actually, people that are direct, to some extent similar to Israelis, even sometimes more direct. And that was an interesting event. But going to Japan, for example, we had a deal with a company there for, I don't know, 5 years, 7 years. After 2 years doing very nice business together, I asked them to do a press release together. And they said, yeah, okay. And nothing happened. And then half a year, and a year, and a year and a half, and they say always, yeah, yeah, sure, yeah, yeah. And only after 3 years, at the cigarette break downstairs, my sales guy understood that they will not do a press release with us because they work with Arab countries and they cannot. But they can say no. They don't say no. So all of these kinds of
it's,
instances.
I think in a sense, the multicultural thing has a lot to do with being accepting or agreeing that we are different. That means I don't understand everything you say or you don't say. Multicultural, in my opinion, says that I will behave a certain way, but I will understand that you do not. There's a lost in translation, right? So, well, if I ask you to do a press release and you say yes, if I didn't take it to the next level, okay, that's a problem. And on the other side is being able to say, I don't understand. And the problem is we feel sometimes a bit stupid when they say certain things. I had a call. By the way, I remember having a call with someone from South Africa. I couldn't understand a single thing. English, but I don't understand. And the person, that guy was so, he's happy, he's motivated, he's pushing. And I still don't understand that we signing the contract, we're not. I don't know what's happening. But he sounds happy. And at the end, I told him, listen, we have 5 minutes left. Could you say the same things in a different accent? I'm sorry, I didn't understand. He's like, hey, why didn't you say that like 25 minutes ago? And then he explained to me what he wanted, what he needed. He had questions. Like, I couldn't understand. And he said, I promise I'll do it better with your team next time. Like, and I said, well, thank you. And I should have said it before. So I'm sorry for putting you in a bad position. So it's always interesting. But
I must tell you something, Nir. When I was before I became the CEO of X9, the company I sold to Honeywell, I was on the board as an investor, and things went not so good, and I saw how the board attacked the CEO, and I came back and was saying to my wife, you know what, I wouldn't stay at that position if I was in his position. I wouldn't manage to bear it. And 3 4 years later, I found myself in that position, which gave me, you don't know what you can do and what you can bear until you're there. And more than that, I think that if not me at that point, at that time, wanting so much this company to continue to exist, and I'm not sure that today it would be the same. But at that time, for me, it was this company is going to succeed, and you guys that are angry at me are going to see money from this company. you're going to see returns from this company. It's some decision inside that was very strong to me at that time. I think that it taught me a lot about the will. And then, things and God and, whatever you want to say, arranged opportunities along the way. But it was not, I think it was strong will that they didn't know that I have.
But you've served in the army in a very unique unit, a very unique position. You could have stayed there as a career. You went to do clowning. You could have done that as a career. You went to some of the biggest companies doing tech at the beginning. You could have stayed there forever. Even going to the board, even the decision, if I understand correctly, to take the helm, to change what you had, take the helm as a CEO, and go and change a company that's basically on the verge of bankruptcy. What keeps you moving? What keeps you going? Every one of us, doesn't matter if we're a student, a young entrepreneur, a manager, we all know those moments when you say, I'm done. I give up.
So I think about these things a lot because I made several changes along my life. And in several positions, I saw that I have a lot of passion to do things, a lot of passion, but a lot of fear, uncertainty, all kinds of this. And these are, like each one of them is very strong. And I said to myself, I remember, if the passion was not so big, I would give up. And that if the fears were not so high, it was easier. But it's like to jump into this pool. Everybody, the first sentence you'll hear before you jump into the pool, check the depth of the water, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I didn't want to check the depth of the water because I knew it was very, very shallow. And yet I wanted to jump. So there was a strong passion. And luckily for me, in many of the cases, to be a clown, to go to the best acting studio in Israel, I finished it, 3 years, Nisan Nativ. Lucky enough for me, my passion was stronger than my fears and at most places. So it's a passion to. And now actually, I thought I lost the company. I sold the company about maybe I lost it as well about 4 years ago. And then I served my duty at Honeywell, huge company, very strong company, very successful. I finished it, and I said to myself, okay, now that we found love, what are we going to do with it? Like the song says, what am I going to do going forward? And so I started, first of all, we have this after army trip. People in Israel, after they finish the army, they go to clean their head.
Backpack.
So I decided,
They
sorry?
backpack. They take a backpack and they go traveling
Yeah,
in South America and Australia, Thailand.
Far East, yeah. And I said to myself, well, it's time for my after army trip at the age of 56. I really enjoyed it very much. A shorter one. Coming back, I said to myself, what I really want is to work. My passion is to work with people and see them grow. That's my passion. Actually, I saw it also when I was a CEO. Working with VPs. That sometimes it went good, sometimes they needed some support. Maybe it was also even a weakness of me because I was insisting on taking people and helping them to grow instead of maybe switching them. Right? That's also an option. So I realized that that's what I want to do. I went to study coaching, went to study group facilitation on top of forum, stuff like that. Group facilitation. On one hand, there was a lady guiding prisoners, and on my left side, something else, in this realm. And 2 years of studying, and then I started to work with CEOs. Now it's not trivial because CEOs, most of them think that they know everything. And in that sense, by the way, I think I'm structured differently, for good or bad. Because when I was a CEO, I always took into account that I don't know things. I thought about one the one critical thing that I need support with. Sometimes it was how to do a good contract. Sometimes it was operations. Sometimes it was sales. And I took support in that direction. Each time a different direction. The most critical chain now in the and when I go now to work with the CEOs and the first thing is, is it a person that is coachable? Is it is he interested in taking some wisdom, some guidance, opening up and talking about, like, when what we do in EO, or we talk real things, not only the wonderful things that happen in the
I,
world.
I want to touch. I want to touch on what you're saying, if I understand correctly, but also mention something. I think one of the most interesting things within EO, and I think that's important for people listening who don't know what EO is. The organization is, we are divided into forums, and then we don't give advice. We experience share. And in order for that to succeed, there has to be a certain trust, which I think is always very true when you take a consultant, when you take a coach. And I think we always need some sort of either a mentor, someone to help us in different things. And then it's not, if you do this, you'll succeed. And I just met, I don't know, in the last 2 or 3 years and doing these interviews, so many EO members who told me, we took these advisors and they told us what to do and we failed. But I think it has a lot to do with experience share. And secondly, within EO, we talk a lot about the 5% or the 1%, not the things that you can tell anyone, but the things that underneath the surface, once we bring them up to the surface, we can discuss and resolve. That's what the magic happens. Because if you can talk about it with anyone, it doesn't matter. It doesn't. There's no depth to it. We're not solving a real problem. We're not finding the root of the problem. What I want to ask you about this is, they meet you. How do you create that intimacy very fast? They need to be very open. They need to be willing to receive tough love, feedback. Is this something you put on the table when you start, or is it being built up?
So first of all, before I answer the question, what you talked about EO is extremely important. And I remember, like, a very good bad example of what happened to be in a forum. Okay, now it's about me, so I can talk about it. I was in the beginning of negotiation with big companies like Honeywell to sell the company, and somebody there looked at me and said, like this, with a finger, "You need to be careful. These guys will take you to your knees and will deceive you, and then will buy you for nothing." I remember my feeling at the time. This is like advice, right? Big advice. And it could be the same story, but I had an experience. I worked with such a company, and they were lousy. They dragged the negotiation. The same story, but from personal experience.
If they have,
It's a completely
if
different.
they have that person.
If it happened, yes, yes, definitely. And I remember this feeling that, wow. First of all, maybe I'm making a big mistake. I felt something, instead of getting more, more strong going out of this meeting. I felt like, whoa, maybe I'm making a mistake, or maybe it's not things that I should bring into the forum. It's the. I remember this feeling. And to get back to your question, on the other hand, I remember a situation when I had a kind of an anxiety attack, and one of the forum mates called me, her, and she said, "Hey, we have a meeting today. We'll see each other." I said, "I'm not sure I'm coming because I had this anxiety and I don't feel good." And, "Are you crazy? This is the time. This is the time that you should come to the meeting." And I came to the meeting, and I remember near that I don't remember a lot of what was told back to me, the experience shared. But I remember the feeling of being able to be there in that, for me, a very low place. Now, back to your question, when I go to talk to CEOs, I'm first of all trying to set the stage that I'm working. They are the important person for me. I'm there for them, not for anybody. Even if I was sent by somebody else, they are my client. There's a full confidentiality, like in you, and I share fast enough. I share, that I don't come from a I know all, but of a humanic, a person that has some experience that wants to support you in your journey, and and then they open up. Then they know, there's some magic also there. I don't know what to say, right?
I think a lot to do with the experience
Uh,
share is sometimes the difference. Advice is this is what you should do. The reason why it's a problem in most cases, and this is how we kind of inherently become after doing this form for years, is we understand that we don't know the whole picture. I only know what you told me. And the fact that I don't know the whole picture means that I will give you bad advice. If I was there, I noticed everything, I witnessed the whole discussion, I know the whole story, I know everything, then I can tell you if I was in your place, in your shoes, this is what I would do. We can discuss if that's the wrong or right advice. In most cases, people will come and tell you, you won't believe what happened to me. And you'll say, oh, really? This is what you have to do. But you don't know. Because maybe subjectively, that's what they experienced. Maybe this is not what happened. And oftentimes, when people present in our forum, when we reflect what we heard, they will say, really? That's what you heard? That's not what I thought. I thought it was a bad thing. And they'll say, no, but I heard something good. And then the reflection is a great way of moving forward. And I think it's important. I'm hearing from you interesting things about curiosity. Am I correct? The willingness to learn more things that you're curious about moving forward.
yeah, especially with women, with men and women. It's really like my kids. I just came back from Georgia from a trip, and my 16 years old kid is laughing at me that I want to know the story of every person. So for me, it starts with curiosity about the people. And I'm curious about technology and about marketing and about sales, but mainly about people. I must I must say. But but something you said is I had like a mini meeting working with the CEOs lately, and the main takeaway of one of them was that he's not communicating well. Exactly what you said. So he was explaining the situation. People were doing shares. Then I said, if this is what you come back to me with your shares, it means that I didn't explain the situation good. This is new to me. This was the best takeaway for him to work on that.
If we talk
And
about, sorry, yeah, continue, please.
so and also sometimes people, they came out, and I'm sure you also had this experience where you present your deep dive or whatever, but actually the most value you get is from the deep dive of your friend that you say, hey, actually I have a similar situation, and maybe I need to do something about it as well.
Yeah, so listening to other people's issues and problems sometimes helps us reflect to our things and say, what does that mean about me? And then I think that's really important, being there for someone else and learning from that experience is always good. By the way, I can share with
And I
you.
love to see the surprise me of people where they, especially new people in EO or in my, my management teamwork or CEO's circle, that they said, "Wow, I didn't know that this can go so deep and that this can feel so good." And suddenly, I feel a belonging feeling that I didn't feel for a lot of time. That's
Yeah, I think in a sense now that you're moving forward, right, and your next challenges are working with those CEOs, helping them scale, helping them improve, which is always interesting. I'll ask you a question about that. Can anyone be a consultant in your opinion, regardless of age, experience? I've met very young people who, some of them work with big CEOs as consultants, but they've never built a big company. They work on strategic meetings with them or concepts or scaling, but they've never done these things. Do you think the hands on is crucial, or maybe you can learn the method?
well, a consultant is one thing. If you specialize in one thing, yeah, a football team coach doesn't have to be the best player. But I think if you go to coaching and mentoring, I think there's something of curiosity and the ability to listen, to be there, and first of all observe before you jump, with any conclusions, and ask a lot of questions. That's capability. Of course, you can develop it like we do also in EO, but this is, I think, a basic trait that you need to either come with or develop to be there.
So listening.
Now, I take a forum, elsewhere as well, of forum rules. For instance, the experience shares, not advice. I'm facilitating for 2 years now, a men's circle once a week in my town here. 12 people come. And one of the things that I took as a rule is no advice. And now, 2 years later, you see that people talk about the change of the quality of the listening outside of the circle to their families, to people that they meet. A person talked about some trips he did with a group that he never was able to become part of the group, and because of the work that what happened in our work, he's now his communication changed. He can now more be in a listening mode and inhaling what's happening. And so I must tell you that I slept very good at that night.
Oh,
Like with a good feeling.
I can totally relate to that good feeling. I can share with you that sometimes I do these podcasts and then I get 2, 3 months later from someone saying, "Hey, you won't believe who listened to this podcast that we did, and they asked me this, or I helped them with something, and they're so happy about it that they helped someone else." I'm like on the sidelines. I'm like, yes, but I think listening is becoming quite a big trait that we're trying to teach in terms of, so this is experience share, so I need to listen to the situation, or I need to understand, and at the end is to give you the right tools, right, after I heard you. And I think that is important. And I think a lot of us in the day to day, especially I think where we come from in Israel, there's a fast pace, we talk a lot and everything. And sometimes I need to remind myself that it's okay to stop, let them talk, listen. By the way, it's funny because I do that in sales because it makes the sale very easy. They talk, they tell me what they need, I tell them back what I heard, and they buy. But it's something else when you sit with your friends. It's something else when you talk to your spouse, your family, right?
I'll tell you a little story here. You know, my son, is now 16, and he allowed me to talk about it. There was a time that he was very angry in the mornings and, couldn't control. And funnily enough, actually not so funnily enough, I was also at that time a very angry person. And we had a conversation where um, he talked about his nerves and behavior, emotional control, and I talked about mine. And I didn't remember this conversation. Okay, I didn't remember it. Few years later, he said to me, "You know that? You know what? How I managed to start to control my feelings is because after our conversation, I saw that you start to control your feelings and your anger, and so it's like I didn't even know, I didn't even remember that I had this conversation with him.
It take,
So
Thank you for sharing that. I like that. The lead by example is always a nice reminder, I think. As leaders, I think, here's my one of the last questions, but I have to ask. It's interesting. We just had a discussion about this morning with friends. Would you suggest when you work with CEOs, we all have some things that we're amazing at, some things we're okay at, some things we don't like, some things we should avoid. Okay, like I shouldn't design. You think I should, as CEOs or as entrepreneurs, some people say you should take the skill you're the worst at and improve that, right? And some say, no, 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 only focus on the ones you're good at. How do you look at things?
so many years I worked on my weak things, if you will. Being a project manager, it's not my best thing, but I can do it. I did it very well at Converse. It took me an effort to do it. And then I read his book. It's an old book. Now focus on your strength. I'm translating from the translation from Hebrew, so I hope it's the right name. And my wife read it, and she gave me to do the test. The test actually spot on the three, four things, five things that are the most, the things that will, 2 a.m. they'll wake you up, and it comes out naturally, and it actually changed my management style and how the way I built my team, because I realized that my best features are about people, taking the best of people and building the right team, and that I not need to be best in everything. I'm not the best R&D manager. I'm not the best project manager. I'm not the best operational guy. But if I can build a team, it really changed the way I look at things and what I focus on. So the short answer is focus on your strengths. And if you really want to be good, like I felt like it's life or death for me to be more expressive than I was when I was very shy. Okay, so it's really life or death for me. 3 years banging my head on the wall to become funny and to if this is important to me, yeah, go ahead, do it. But if it's not, outsource it. Outsource it to the people that will do it much better.
Yeah.
Uh, that's my answer. And I tell you one more thing that before we close, maybe is that I still have a big question for myself. Is this working with coaching and mentoring and being like on the sidelines, is it the right place for me nowadays? Because from time to time, I have this urge to take a big project again. Be in the center on the football, the soccer playground. And not as a coach, reporter, or whatever. And so I'm still looking for the next big project. I think I'm gonna jump for one more time to one big project.
So
Looking for it.
anyone who's listening, he's up for grabs. If you have an idea, reach out. I think that'd be right. They can find you. I'll put your details so they can reach out to you. I think it's uh, it's always interesting. We tend to focus on the things we are good at, right? And once in a while, when we fail at something, we suck. We say, "I need to fix it." So for me, by the way, last year it was about taking a stylist to help me buy clothes. So I couldn't do it alone, which was a fun day. Fun day. Half of my form, by the way, we took the same stylist in different times, and everybody, we went with our stylist. So my form has a stylist.
Yeah, I need the details. I need the
Yeah,
details
yeah. I'll
because
give it. We'll share
I'm not
that.
good at
By the way,
that.
it's interesting. It changed the way we do some stuff on stage when I present or things like that. And I think
What do you mean?
different way of I would dress a very certain way in anything I did, and then suddenly it's the way you, which shoes do you have, the pants you have, stuff like that. The t-shirts, I always have these t-shirts that I like that are kind of like my brand and everything. And in some cases, changing those in very specific talks to change to a well-known brand. Because if you talk, I know I'm now flying to Web Summit. Over there, the t-shirts of startups are, everybody knows it. It's kind of the vibe. But you could go and talk in front of businessmen. If you wear Lacoste, it looks different. And the thing is, I like the Lacoste brand. I just almost never wear it. And now I have an excuse and I like it and it fits what I want to project and it serves all the purposes and I enjoy it. So it's not just about finding a stylist to change who we are. It's to help us be a little bit better the way we feel comfortable with, you know? So
That's a good stylist.
yeah, I'll give you the number. I'll give you the number after the talk. Any last things to the world? Final words before we finish this epic episode. And I want to thank you. I had a good time. Something to leave us with.
So first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me and having this conversation with you. It's always interesting, and I learn from you. You know how to, interview people and how to a lot of things I learned from you. So I appreciate it. And my last words are uh, being humble, curious, and look for your passion. Look for your passion, real passion,
I
because then you have the energy to cross the world several times.
I can tell you that I feel everything you've said from knowing you all these years about being humble. And as someone who's an introvert in ways, I have to say that every time we go to a European conference with you, it's always a pleasure. And there's always such a positive vibe that you have on the room and the people. And when I mention your name in places, when you are not there, people smile. So I want you to know that. And that's usually a way of knowing that you're leaving a good impact. And thank you for spending that, this, I don't know, 45, 40, 50 minutes with me. And I appreciate it. And I'll end this. I have the honor, pleasure of meeting these amazing people. I do this as a volunteer. I love it, and I'll keep doing it as long as I have time with my business and my other things and my traveling. And we do it because we like it, and we do it because we want to share the information. So if you are an entrepreneur, a student, a manager, anyone who likes to learn, feel free to subscribe, follow us, enjoy the content. We do it for you guys, so you'll have fun. And I'll see you the next time. Shmulik Aran from EO Israel. Thank you so much for being with me and with us. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and probably every other channel that we can find to post it on. I am your host, Neil Zavaro, and I'll see you next time.